Let's stop right here and talk just a little bit about understanding traverses. We opened up the traverse that we imported from the data collector called 2346 section 14 raw, and we got this traverse view. Okay. I want to take a look at a couple of things here. If I choose view, format view, or I could press F9, that's the hotkey, Traverse PC brings up the format for this traverse, and I can see that I've got coordinates here, and I could simply replace those with geodetic positions simply by using the appropriate letters from the right side over here in my display sequence. The edit sequence is for manual entering data. It tells me where I want the cursor to go each time I press the enter key, as does the occupied point sequence. I want you to notice another option that I use quite a bit, and that is single row per point. I oftentimes will tell Traverse PC, instead of separating out and using 2 lines per point in the traverse view, just use 1, and watch as it condenses the traverse down. So that option is right here in the toolbar. I could go back to 2 lines per point or back to 1 line per point. I'm going to just expand this out a little bit so we can see a little bit more information here. And I want to talk to you about what we call the traverse view sequence. And I want to look in particular down here around 7, 9, and 10. Point 7 is a foresight, and in the type column Traverse PC leaves it blank. So point 7 is a foresight, but it's also immediately occupied for the shot ahead to point 9. If I were to switch to the 2 lines per point, I can see that I have information, in this case a slope distance of 2106 feet, that establishes the position of 7, and then immediately following that I went to point 9. If I highlight a distance like this and look down in the status bar, can you see that Traverse PC tells me the occupied point is 7 and the foresight is 9? If I were to pick an angle, like this angle at 7 for instance, it would also include the backsight then. So it tells me the backsight is 4, the occupied point is 2:1, and the foresight is 7. Let's stop here and just look at that for a minute. So here's point 7, and this is the foresight data that's establishing it. But if I look upwards in the traverse, I see my next control point is 2:1. Okay, so the status bar tells me that's my control point. So point 7, this foresight, is established from 2:1. If I continue to look up, the next control point I have is 4. So that's what it used for the backsight. I also can specify an explicit backsight record like I did here with 1:1. But in the absence of an explicit backsight record, Traverse PC just starts looking up the traverse and picks the next adjacent control point as the occupied point and the next adjacent control point as the backsight. And that's why it displays this way in the status bar down here. I also want to introduce you to something we call display raw data. When Traverse PC imported this traverse data from the data collector file, it recomputed the position of all the points. And of course it used our basis of bearing from those geodetic positions we had imported earlier. But it stores all the raw data for us. So let's come up to View, Display Raw Data. The hotkey is Shift plus F9. In Display Raw Data, Traverse PC only shows me what came in from the data collector. So these are the angles and distances, instrument heights, target heights, reference azimuths, whatever, directly out of the data collector. Even if I were to adjust this traverse or do a least squares network adjustment, this raw data remains untouched. So we tell folks, for the most part, don't go back and edit your raw data file from your data collector. Bring the data in and edit it once it's inside of the traverse view, because all of your data is here.